Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King is an American former world #1 professional tennis player. King won 39 Grand Slam titles, 12 in singles, 16 in women's doubles and 11 in mixed doubles. King won the singles title at the inaugural WTA Tour Championships. King often represented the United States in the Federation Cup and the Wightman Cup. She was a member of the victorious United States team in 7 Federation Cups and 9 Wightman Cups. For 3 years King was the United States captain in the Federation Cup. King is an advocate for gender equality and has long been a pioneer for equality and social justice. In 1973, at age 29, she won the Battle of the Sexes tennis match against the 55-year-old Bobby Riggs. King was also the founder of the Women's Tennis Association and the Women's Sports Foundation. Regarded by many in the sport as one of the greatest tennis players of all time, King was inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 1987. The Fed Cup Award of Excellence was bestowed on King in 2010. In 1972, King was the joint winner with John Wooden of the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year award, and was one of the Time Persons of the Year in 1975. King has also received the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Sunday Times Sportswoman of the Year Lifetime Achievement Award. King was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1990 and in 2006. The USTA National Tennis Center in New York City was renamed the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. Early life. King was born in Long Beach, California into a conservative Methodist family. The daughter of Betty, a housewife, and Bill Moffitt, a firefighter. Billie Jean's family was athletic. Her mother excelled at swimming, her father played basketball, baseball, and ran track. Her younger brother Randy Moffitt became a Major League Baseball pitcher, pitching for 12 years in the major leagues for the San Francisco Giants, Houston Astros, and Toronto Blue Jays. Billie Jean also excelled at baseball and softball as a child, playing shortstop at 10 years old on a team with girls 4 or 5 years older than her. The team went on to win the Long Beach Softball Championship. Billie Jean switched from softball to tennis at age 11 on a suggestion from her parents when Billie Jean was looking for a more ladylike sport. She saved her own money, $8, to buy her first racket. Billie Jean learned tennis on the many free public courts in Long Beach, taking advantage of the free lessons tennis professional Clyde Walker offered at those courts. One of the city's tennis facilities has subsequently been named the Billie Jean Moffitt King Tennis Center. As a kid playing in her first tennis tournaments, Billie Jean was often hindered by her aggressive playing style. Bob Martin, sportswriter for the Long Beach Press-Telegram, wrote about Billie Jean's success in a weekly tennis column. Billie Jean attended Long Beach Polytechnic High School. After graduating, she attended California State University, Los Angeles. Billie Jean did not graduate, leaving school in 1964 to focus on tennis. While attending Cal State, Billie Jean met Larry King in a library. The pair became engaged while still in school when Billie Jean was 20 and Larry 19 years old, and married on September 17, 1965 in Long Beach. Career. King's triumph at the French Open in 1972 made her only the 5th woman in tennis history to win the singles titles at all 4 Grand Slam events, a career Grand Slam. King also won a career Grand Slam in mixed doubles. In women's doubles, only the Australian Open eluded her. King won a record 20 career titles at Wimbledon, 6 in singles, 10 in women's doubles and 4 in mixed doubles. King played 51 Grand Slam singles events from 1959 through 1983, reaching at least the semi-finals in 27 and at least the quarter-finals in 40 of her attempts. King was the runner-up in 6 Grand Slam singles events, an indicator of King's mental toughness. At crunch time in Grand Slam singles tournaments was her 11-2 career record in deuce third sets, i.e. third sets that were tied 5-5 before being resolved. King won 129 singles titles, 78 of which were WTA titles, and her career prize money totaled $1,966,487. In Federation Cup finals, King was on the winning United States team 7 times in 1963, 1966, 1967, and 1976 through 1979. Her career win-loss record was 52-4. She won the last 30 matches she played, including 15 straight wins in both singles and doubles. In Wightman Cup competition, King's career win-loss record was 22-4, winning her last 9 matches. The United States won the Cup 10 of the 11 years that King participated. In singles, King was 6-1 against Ann Hayden-Jones, 4-0 against Virginia Wade, and 1-1 against Christine Truman James. The early years, 1959 through 1963. As King began competing in 1959, she began working with new coaches including Frank Brennan and Alice Marble, who had won 18 Grand Slam titles as a player herself. King made her Grand Slam debut at the 1959 U.S. Championships at age 15. She lost in the first round. King began playing at local, regional, and international tennis championships. Sports Illustrated already pegged her as one of the most promising youngsters on the West Coast. King won her first tournament the next year in Philadelphia at the 1960 Philadelphia and District Grass Court Championships. At her second attempt at the U.S. Championships, King made it to the third round, losing to Bernice Vukovic of South Africa. Also in 1960, King reached the final of the National Girls 18 and Under Championships, losing to Karen Hansa-Sussman. King's national tennis ranking improved from number 19 in 1959 to number 4 1960. Despite the success, Marble terminated her professional relationship with King because for reasons stemming from King's ambition. King first gained international recognition in 1961 when the Long Beach tennis patrons Century Club and Harold Guyver raised $2,000 to send her to Wimbledon. There, she won the women's doubles title in her first attempt while partnering Karen Hansa-Sussman. King was 17 and Sussman was 18, making them the youngest team to the Wimbledon doubles title. King had less luck that year at 1961 Wimbledon women's singles, losing to fifth-seeded Yola Ramirez Ochoa in a 2-day match on center court. For the 1962 singles tournament at Wimbledon, King upset Margaret Court, the world number 1 and top seed, in a second-round match by attacking Court's forehand. This was the first time in Wimbledon history that the women's top seed had lost her first match. That same year, King and Hansa-Sussman repeated their doubles victory at Wimbledon. In 1963, King again faced Margaret Court at Wimbledon. This time they met in the finals, with Court prevailing. 1964. In 1964, King won 4 relatively minor titles but lost to Margaret Court in the Wimbledon semi-finals. She defeated Ann Hayden-Jones at both the Wightman Cup and Fed Cup, but lost to Court in the final of the Federation Cup. At the U.S. Championships, fifth-seeded Nancy Richie Gunter upset third-seeded King in the quarterfinals. Late in the year, King decided to make a full-time commitment to tennis. While a history major at Los Angeles State College, King made the decision to play full-time when businessman Robert Mitchell offered to pay her way to Australia so that she could train under the great Australian coach Mervyn Rose. While in Australia, King played 3 tournaments that year, and lost in the quarter-finals of the Queensland Grass Court Championships, the final of the New South Wales Championships and the third round of the Victorian Championships. 1965. In early 1965, King continued her 3-month tour of Australia. She lost in the final of the South Australian Championships, and the first round of the Western Australia Championships. At the Fed Cup in Melbourne, King defeated Anne Hayden-Jones, to help the United States defeat the United Kingdom in the second round. However, Margaret Court again defeated King in the final. At the Australian Championships 2 weeks later, King lost to Court in the semi-finals in 2 sets. At Wimbledon, King again lost in the semi-finals, this time in 3 sets to Maria Bueno. Her last tournament of the year was the US Championships, where she defeated Jones in the quarter-finals and Bueno in the semi-finals. In the final, King led 5-3 in both sets, was 2 points from winning the first set, and had 2 set points in the second set before losing to Court in straight sets. King said that losing while being so close to winning was devastating, but the match proved to her that she was good enough to be the best in the world. "I'm going to win Wimbledon next year." King won 6 tournaments during the year. For the first time in 81 years, the annual convention of the United States Lawn Tennis Association overruled its ranking committee's recommendation to award King the sole U.S. #1 position and voted 59,810 to 40,966 to rank Nancy Richie Gunter and King as co-U.S. #1. Overview of these years. From 1966 through 1975, King won 32 of her career 39 Grand Slam titles, including all 12 of her Grand Slam singles titles, 9 of her 16 Grand Slam women's doubles titles, and 10 of her 11 Grand Slam mixed doubles titles. 6 of King's Grand Slam singles titles were at Wimbledon, 4 were at the US Championships Open, 1 was at the French Open and 1 was at the Australian Championships. King reached the final of a Grand Slam singles tournament in 16 out of 25 attempts, and had a 12-4 win-loss record in those finals. In the 9 tournaments that she failed to reach the final, she was a losing semi-finalist twice and a losing quarter-finalist 5 times. From 1971 through 1975, King won 7 of the 10 Grand Slam singles tournaments she played. She won the last 7 Grand Slam singles finals. She contested 6 of them in straight sets, and 4 of them against Yvonne Goolagong. All but 1 of King's Grand Slam singles titles were on grass. King's Grand Slam record, from 1966 through 1975, was comparable to that of Margaret Court, her primary rival. During these years, one or both of these women played 35 of the 40 Grand Slam singles tournaments held during this period, and together they won 24 of them. During this period, Court won 31 of her career 64 Grand Slam titles, including 12 of her 24 Grand Slam singles titles, 11 of her 19 Grand Slam women's doubles titles, and 8 of her 21 Grand Slam mixed doubles titles. Court reached the final of a Grand Slam singles tournament in 14 out of 25 attempts, and had a 12-2 win-loss record in those finals. Court won 7 of the 12 Grand Slam finals she played against King during these years, including 2-1 in singles finals, 4-1 in women's doubles finals, and 1-3 in mixed doubles finals. King was the year-ending world number 1 in 6 of the 10 years from 1966 through 1975. She was the year-ending world number 2 in 3 of those years and the world number 3 in the other year. King won 97 of her career 129 singles titles during this period, and was the runner-up in 36 other tournaments. 1966. In 1966, King defeated Dorothy "Dodo" Cheney for the first time in 5 career matches, winning their semi-final at the Southern California Championships 6-0-6-3. King also ended her 9-match losing streak to Margaret Court by defeating her in the final of the South African Tennis Championships. At the Wightman Cup just before Wimbledon, King defeated Virginia Wade and Ann Hayden-Jones. After 13 unsuccessful attempts to win a Grand Slam singles title from 1959 through 1965, King, at the age of 22, finally won the first of her 6 singles titles at Wimbledon, and the first of 12 Grand Slam singles titles overall, defeating Court in the semi-finals 6-3, 6-3 and Maria Bueno in the final. King credited her semi-final victory to her forehand down the line, a new shot in her repertoire. She also said that the strategy for playing Court is simple. Just chip the ball back at her feet. At the U.S. Championships, King was upset by Kerry Melville Reid in the second round. 1967. King successfully defended her title at the South African Tennis Championships in 1967, defeating Maria Bueno in the final. She played the French Championships for the first time in her career, falling in the quarter-finals to Annette van Zyl Duploy of South Africa. At the Federation Cup 1 week later in West Germany on clay, King won all 4 of her matches, including victories over Duploy, Ann Hayden-Jones and Helga Nielsen-Masthoff. King then successfully switched surfaces and won her second consecutive Wimbledon singles title, defeating Virginia Wade in the quarterfinals 7-5, 6-2 and Jones. At the Wightman Cup, King again defeated Wade and Jones. King won her second Grand Slam singles title of the year, when she won the U.S. Championships for the first time and without losing a set, defeating Wade, Duploy, Françoise Durr and Jones in consecutive matches. Jones pulled her left hamstring muscle early in the final, and saved 4 match points in the second set before King prevailed. King won the singles, women's doubles and mixed doubles titles at both Wimbledon and the U.S. Championships, the first woman to do this since Alice Marble in 1939. King then returned to the Australian Summer Tour in December for the first time since 1965, playing 7 events there, and Judy Teggett-Dalton in 6 of those events. King lost in the quarter-finals of the New South Wales Championships in Sydney to Dalton after King injured her left knee in the second game of the third set of that match. However, King won the Victorian Championships in Melbourne the following week, defeating Dalton, Reid and Leslie Turner-Bowrey in the last 3 rounds. At a team event in Adelaide, King won all 3 of her singles and doubles matches to help the US defeat Australia 5-1. To finish the year, King lost to Dalton in the final of the South Australian Championships in Adelaide. 1968. In early 1968, King won 3 consecutive tournaments to end her Australian tour. In Perth, King won the Western Australia Championships, defeating Margaret Court in the final. In Hobart, King won the Tasmanian Championships by defeating Judy Teggett-Dalton in the final. King then won the Australian Championships for the first time, defeating Dalton in the semi-finals and Court in the final. King continued to win tournaments upon her return to the United States, winning 3 indoor tournaments before Nancy Richie Gunter defeated King in the semi-finals of the Madison Square Garden Challenge Trophy Amateur Tournament in New York City before 10,233 spectators. The match started with Gunter taking a 4-2 lead in the first set, before King won 9 of the next 10 games. King served for the match at 5-1 and had a match point at 5-3 in the second set. However, she lost the final 12 games and the match 4-6, 7-5, 6-0. King then won 3 consecutive tournaments in Europe before losing to Ann Hayden-Jones in the final of a professional tournament at Madison Square Garden, playing the French Open for only the second time in her career and attempting to win 4 consecutive Grand Slam singles titles. King defeated Maria Bueno in a quarter-final before losing to Gunter in a semi-final 2-6, 6-3, 6-4. King rebounded to win her 3rd consecutive Wimbledon singles title, defeating Jones in the semi-finals and Dalton in the final. At the US Open, King defeated Bueno in a semi-final before being upset in the final by Virginia Wade. On September 24, she had surgery to repair cartilage in her left knee, and did not play in tournaments the remainder of the year. King said that it took 8 months for her knee to recover completely from the surgery. In 1977, King said that her doctors predicted in 1968 that her left knee would allow her to play competitive tennis for only 2 more years. 1969. King participated in the 1969 Australian Summer Tour for the 2nd consecutive year. Unlike the previous year, King did not win a tournament. She lost in the quarter-finals of the Tasmanian Championships, and the semi-finals of the New South Wales Championships. At the Australian Open, King defeated 17-year-old Yvonne Goolagong in the second round 6-3, 6-1, and Ann Hayden-Jones in a 3-set semi-final before losing to Margaret Court in a straight-sets final. The following week, King lost in the semi-finals of the New Zealand Championships. Upon her return to the United States, King won the Pacific Coast Pro and the Los Angeles Pro. King then won 2 tournaments in South Africa, including the South African Open. During the European summer clay court season, King lost in the quarter-finals of both the Italian Open and the French Open on grass. At the Wills Open in Bristol, United Kingdom, King defeated Virginia Wade in the semi-finals before losing to Court. At Wimbledon, King lost only 13 points while defeating Rosemary Castles in the semi-finals 6-1, 6-0. However, Jones upset King in the final and prevented King from winning her 4th consecutive singles title there. The week after, King again defeated Wade to win the Irish Open for the 2nd time in her career. In the final Grand Slam tournament of the year, King lost in the quarter-finals of the US Open to Nancy Richie Gunter 6-4, 8-6. This was the first year since 1965 that King did not win at least one Grand Slam singles title. King finished the year with titles at the Pacific Southwest Open in Los Angeles, the Stockholm Indoors and the Midland Pro. She said during the Pacific Southwest Open, "It has been a bad year for me. My left knee has been okay, but I have been bothered by a severe tennis elbow for 7 months. I expect to have a real big year in 1970 though, because I really have the motivation now. I feel like a kid again." 1970. In 1970, Margaret Court won all 4 Grand Slam singles tournaments and was clearly the world number 1. King lost to Court 3 times in the first 4 months of the year in Philadelphia, Dallas, and Johannesburg. Court, however, was not totally dominant during this period, as King defeated her in Sydney and Durban, South Africa. Where Court dominated was at the Grand Slam tournaments. King did not play the Australian Open. King had leg cramps and lost to Helga Niesen-Masthoff of West Germany in the quarter-finals of the French Open 2-6, 8-6, 6-1. At Wimbledon, court needed 7 match points to defeat King in the final 14-12, 11-9 in one of the greatest women's finals in the history of the tournament. On July 22, King had right knee surgery which forced her to miss the US Open. King returned to the tour in September where she had a first-round loss at the Virginia Slims Invitational in Houston and a semi-final loss at the Pacific Coast Championships in Berkeley, California. To close out the year, King in November won the Virginia Slims Invitational in Richmond, Virginia, and the Embassy Indoor Tennis Championships in London. During the European clay court season, King warmed up for the French Open by playing in Monte Carlo, winning the Italian Open, playing in Bournemouth and playing in Berlin. The Italian Open victory was the first important clay court title of King's career. Along the way, she defeated Mastov in a 3-set quarterfinal and Wade in a 3-set semi-final, saving 2 match points at 4-5 in the second set. The 12th game of that set had 21 deuces and lasted 22 minutes, with Wade saving 7 set points and holding 16 game points before King won. In Wightman Cup competition 2 weeks before Wimbledon but played at the All England Club, King defeated both Wade and Ann Hayden-Jones in straight sets. 1971. Although King won only one Grand Slam singles title in 1971, this was the best year of her career in terms of tournaments won. According to the International Tennis Hall of Fame, she played in 31 singles tournaments and compiled a 112-13 win-loss record. She started the year by winning 8 of the first 13 tournaments she played, defeating Rosemary Castles in 7 finals. King's 5 losses during this period were to Françoise de Castles, Ann Hayden-Jones and Chris Evert. At the time, King said that retiring from the match with Evert after splitting the first 2 sets was necessary because of leg cramps. But in early 1972, King admitted that cramps associated with the abortion caused the retirement. At the tournament in Hurlingham, United Kingdom in early May, King lost a second-round match to an old rival, Christine Truman-Janes, 6-4, 6-2. But King recovered the next week to win the German Open in Hamburg on clay. 4 weeks later, at the Queen's Club tournament in London, King played Margaret Court for the first time in 1971, losing their final. At Wimbledon, King defeated Janes in the 4th round, and Der in the quarterfinals before losing unexpectedly to Yvonne Goolagong in the semi-finals 6-4. 6-4. 2 weeks after Wimbledon, King won the grass court tournament in Hoylake, United Kingdom, beating Virginia Wade, Court and Castles in the last 3 rounds. She then played 2 clay court tournaments in Europe, winning neither, before resuming play in the United States. In August, King won the indoor Houston tournament and the U.S. Women's Clay Court Championships in Indianapolis. King then switched back to grass and won the U.S. Open without losing a set, defeating Evert in the semi-finals and Castles in the final. King then won the tournaments in Louisville, Phoenix and London. King and Castles both defaulted at 6-6 in the final of the Pepsi Pacific Southwest Open in Los Angeles in September, when the request to remove a lineswoman was denied, eventually resulting in the United States Lawn Tennis Association fining both players $2,500. To end the year, King played 2 tournaments in New Zealand but did not win either. She lost in Christchurch to Der and in Auckland to Kerry Melville Reid. 1972. King won 3 Grand Slam singles titles in 1972, electing not to play the Australian Open despite being nearby when she played in New Zealand in late 1971. King said, "I was 28 years old and I was at the height of my powers. I'm quite sure I could have won the Grand Slam in 1972. But the Australian was such a minor league tournament at that time. More important, I did not want to miss any Virginia Slims winter tournaments. I was playing enough as it was. Her dominance was aided by rival Margaret Court's absence from the tour due to childbirth during most of the 1972 season. At the beginning of the year, King failed to win 8 of the first 10 tournaments she played. She won the title in San Francisco in mid-January, but then King lost in Long Beach to Françoise Durand in Fort Lauderdale on clay to Chris Evert 6-1, 6-0. The inconsistent results continued through mid-April in Oklahoma City, Washington, D.C., and Dallas 6-3, 7-5, and Yvonne Goolagong in the semi-finals won 6-6, 4-6, 1. King won the title in Richmond. However, 1 week later, King lost in the semi-finals of the tournament in San Juan. This was followed in successive weeks by a loss in the Jacksonville final to Marie Neumann over Pintarova and in a St. Petersburg semi-final to Evert. King did not lose again until mid-August, winning 6 consecutive tournaments. She won the tournaments in Tucson and Indianapolis. King then won the French Open without losing a set and completed a career Grand Slam. She defeated Virginia Wade in the quarterfinals, Helga Nielsen-Masthoff in the semi-finals, and Goolagong in the final. On grass, King then won the Wimbledon warm-up tournaments in Nottingham and Bristol and won Wimbledon itself for the 4th time. She lost only 1 set during the tournament to Wade in the quarterfinals. That was followed by straight set wins over Rosemary Castles and Goolagong. When the tour returned to the United States, King did not win any of the 3 tournaments she played before the U.S. Open, including a straight sets loss to Margaret Court in Newport. At the U.S. Open, however, King won the tournament without losing a set, including a quarter-final win over Wade, a semi-final defeat of Court, and a final win over Kerry Melville Reid. King finished the year by winning the tournaments in Charlotte and Phoenix, a runner-up finish in Oakland, and a semi-final finish in Boca Raton. 1973. 1973 was Margaret Court's turn to win 3 Grand Slam singles titles, failing to win only Wimbledon, and was the clear world number 1 for the year. This was her first full season since winning the Grand Slam in 1970, as she had missed significant portions of 1971 and 1972 due to childbirth. During the previous year, King started 1973 inconsistently. She missed the first 3 Virginia Slims tournaments in January because of a wrist injury. She then lost in the 3rd round at the Virginia Slims of Miami tournament, but won the Virginia Slims of Indianapolis tournament, defeating Court in the semi-finals 6-7, 7-6, 6-3, and Rosemary Castles in the final. The semi-final victory ended Court's 12th tournament and 59 match-winning streaks, with King saving at least 3 match points when down 5-4 in the second set. Indianapolis was followed by 5 tournaments that King failed to win. King lost to Court in 2 of those tournaments. After deciding not to defend her French Open singles title, King won 4 consecutive tournaments, including her 5th Wimbledon singles title, when she defeated Kerry Melville Reid in the quarterfinals, Yvonne Goolagong in the semi-finals on her 8th match point, and Chris Evert in the final. King lost only 9 points in the 6-0 begeling of Evert in the first set of their final. King also completed the Triple Crown at Wimbledon, thus becoming the first and only player to do so at Wimbledon in the Open era. In none of the preceding tournaments, however, did King play Court. Their rivalry resumed in the final of the Virginia Slims of Nashville tournament, where Court won for the 3rd time in 4 matches against King in 1973. 3 weeks later at the U.S. Open, King retired from her 4th round match with Julie Heldman while ill and suffering from the oppressive heat and humidity. When Haldman complained to the match umpire that King was taking too long between games, King reportedly told Haldman, "If you want the match that badly, you can have it." The Battle of the Sexes match against Bobby Riggs was held in the middle of the Virginia Slims of Houston tournament. King won her first and second round matches 3 days before playing Riggs. Defeated Riggs, won her quarterfinal match the day after the Riggs match, and then lost the following day to Castles in the semi-finals 7-6-6-1. According to King, "I had nothing left to give." To end the year, King won tournaments in Phoenix, Hawaii and Tokyo, and was the runner-up in Baltimore. Battle of the Sexes in 1973, King defeated Bobby Riggs in an exhibition match, winning $100,000. Riggs had been a top men's player in the 1930s and 1940s in both the amateur and professional ranks. He won the Wimbledon men's singles title in 1939, and was considered the world #1 male tennis player for 1941, 1946 and 1947. He then became a self-described tennis hustler who played in promotional challenge matches. In 1973, he took on the role of male chauvinist, claiming that the women's game was so inferior to the men's game that even a 55-year-old like himself could beat the current top female players. He challenged and defeated Margaret Court 6-2-6-1. King, who previously had rejected challenges from Riggs, then accepted a lucrative financial offer to play him for $100,000 winner-take-all. Dubbed the Battle of the Sexes, the Riggs-King match took place at the Houston Astrodome in Texas on September 20, 1973. The match garnered huge publicity in front of 30,492 spectators and a television audience estimated at 50 million people, and 90 million in 37 countries. 29-year-old King beat the 55-year-old Riggs 6-4, 6-3, 6-3. The match is considered a very significant event in developing greater recognition and respect for women's tennis. King said, "I thought it would set us back 50 years if I didn't win that match. It would ruin the women's tennis tour and affect all women's self-esteem, and that to beat a 55-year-old guy was no thrill for me. The thrill was exposing a lot of new people to tennis." 1974. King won 5 of the first 7 tournaments she contested in 1974. She won the Virginia Slims of San Francisco, defeating Nancy Richie Gunter in the semi-finals and Chris Evert in the final. The following week in Indian Wells, California, King again defeated Gunter in the semi-finals but lost to Evert in the final. King then won tournaments in Fairfax, Virginia and Detroit before losing a semi-final match to Virginia Wade in Chicago. King won both tournaments she played in March, defeating Gunter in the Akron, Ohio final and Evert at the U.S. Indoor Championships final. Olga Morozova then upset King in her next 2 tournaments, at Philadelphia in the final and at Wimbledon in a quarter-final 7-5, 6-2. Afterward, King did not play a tour match until the US Open, where she won her 4th singles title and 3rd in the last 4 years. She defeated Rosemary Castles in a straight-sets quarter-final, avenged in the semi-finals her previous year's loss to Julie Heldman, and narrowly defeated Yvonne Goolagong in the final. King did not reach a tournament final during the remainder of the year, losing to Heldman in an Orlando semi-final, Wade in a Phoenix semi-final, and Goolagong in a semi-final of the tour-ending Virginia Slims Championships in Los Angeles. 1975. In 1975, King played singles only half the year as she retired from tournament singles competition immediately after winning her 6th Wimbledon singles title. She began the year in San Francisco defeating Françoise Dur and Virginia Wade before losing to Chris Evert in the final. The following week King won the Sarasota, Florida tournament, defeating Evert in the final 6-3, 6-2. Evert said immediately after the final, which was her 13th career match with King, "I think that's the best that Billie Jean has ever played. I hit some great shots, but they just kept coming back at me." Looking back at that match, King said, "I probably played so well because I had to for the money. Out of frustration comes creativity." Right. 2 months later, Wade defeated King in the semi-finals of the Philadelphia tournament. At the Austin, Texas tournament in April, King defeated Yvonne Goolagong 6-1, 6-3 before losing to Evert in the final. As King was serving for the match at 6-5 in the third set, a disputed line call went in Evert's favor. King said after the match that she was cheated out of the match, and that she had never been angrier about a match. King played only one of the Wimbledon warm-up tournaments, defeating Olga Morozova in the Eastbourne semi-finals before losing to Wade in the final. Seeded third at Wimbledon, King defeated 7th-seeded Morozova in the quarter-finals, and then top-seeded Evert in the semi-finals after being down 3-0 in the final set. Evert blamed her semi-final defeat on a loss of concentration when she saw Jimmy Connors, her former fiancé, escorting Susan George into center court. King, however, believes that the match turned around because King planned for and totally prepared for Wimbledon that year and told herself when she was on the verge of defeat, "Hey, Billie Jean, this is ridiculous. You paid the price. For once you looked ahead. You're supposed to win. Get your bahula in gear." King then defeated 4th-seeded Goolagong Cawley in the second most lopsided women's final ever at Wimbledon. King called her performance a near-perfect match and said to the news media, "I'm never coming back." 1976. Except for 5 Federation Cup singles matches that she won in straight sets in August, King played only in doubles and mixed doubles events from January through September. She partnered Phil Dent to the mixed doubles title at the US Open. She lost to Diane from Holtz-Bales-Traut in both of the singles tournaments she played the remainder of the year. Looking back, King said, "I wasted 1976. After watching Chris Evert and Yvonne Goolagong Cawley play the final at Wimbledon, I asked myself what I was doing. So, despite my age and the operations, the old lady came back." King had knee surgery for the 3rd time on November 9, this time on her right knee, and did not play the remainder of the year. 1977. King spent the first 3 months of the year rehabilitating her right knee after surgery in November 1976. In March 1977, King requested that the Women's Tennis Association exercise its right to grant a wild card entry to King for the 8-player Virginia Slims Championships at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Margaret Court, who finished in 6th place on the Virginia Slims points list, failed to qualify for the tournament because she did not play enough Virginia Slims tournaments leading up to the championships. This left a spot open in the draw, which the WTA filled with Mima Jarzovek. King then decided to play the Lionel Cup tournament in San Antonio, Texas, which the WTA harshly criticized because tournament officials there had allowed transsexual Renee Richards to enter. Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova and Betty Stove criticized King's decision because of Richards' unresolved and highly controversial status on the women's tennis tour. Evert said she was disappointed with King and that until Richards' status was resolved, all of the women should stick together. Navratilova said Billie Jean is a bad girl pouting. She made a bad decision. She's mad because she could not get what she wanted. Stove said that if King had wanted the competition, here are plenty of men around here she could have played with. She didn't have to choose a disputed tournament. The draw in San Antonio called for King to play Richards in the semi-finals had form held. However, Richards lost in the quarter-finals. King eventually won the tournament. At the clay court Family Circle Cup in late March, King played for the last time her longtime rival Nancy Richie Gunter in the first round. King won 0-6, 7-6, 6-2. She defeated another clay court specialist Virginia Ruzici in the second round before winning only one game from Evert in the final. At Wimbledon in the third round, King played Maria Bueno for the last time, with King winning 6-2, 7-5. In the quarter-finals, Evert defeated King for the first time at a Grand Slam singles tournament and for the first time on grass 6-1, 6-2 in just 46 minutes. Evert said it was the best match she had ever played on grass up to that point in her career. And King said no excuses. Let's forget knees, ankles, toes, everything else. She just played beautiful tennis. I don't think many players would have beaten her today. King also said after the match, maybe I can be happy being number 8 instead of number 1. At this stage, just playing that's winning enough for me. But when asked about retirement, King said, "Retire? Quit tournament tennis? You gotta be kidding. It just means I've got a lot more work. I've got to make myself match tough mentally as well as physically. I gotta go out and kill myself for the next 6 months. It's a long, arduous process. I will suffer, but I will be back." There was a small historic note at Wimbledon 1977 in that it was the first time ever that King competed at the championships that she did not reach a final. From her debut in 1961 until 1976, she had played in the final of one of the 3 championship events for women every year. Perhaps there was irony in this, in that as the Wimbledon champion, with the most titles in its history, the event was celebrating its centenary in the year King failed to make a final for the first time. The only other years she competed at the championship and did not feature in a final were 1980 and 1982. Evert repeated her Wimbledon quarter-final victory over King at the clay court US Open, winning 6-2, 6-0. This loss prompted King to say, "I better get it together by October and November. That's it. I'll have to make some big decisions. I'm not 20 years old and I can't just go out and change my game. It's only the last 4 weeks I haven't been in knee pain. But if I keep using that as a cop-out, I shouldn't play." The remainder of the year, King's win-loss record was 31-3, losing only to Evert, Diane from Holtz-Bales-Tratt, and Michelle Tyler Wilson. King won 5 of the 8 tournaments she entered, plus both of her Wightman Cup matches. She defeated Navratilova all 4 times they played, including 3 times in 3 consecutive weeks, and beat Wimbledon champion Virginia Wade twice. Beginning September 26, King played 7 consecutive weeks. She lost to Tyler in the second round in Palm Harbor, Florida, and from Holtz-Bales-Tratt in the semi-finals in Atlanta. She then won 3 hard-court tournaments in 3 consecutive weeks. She defeated Navratilova and Wendy Turnbull to win in Phoenix, losing only 4 points to Turnbull in the third set of the final. The next week, she defeated Navratilova from Holtz-Bales-Tratt and Wimbledon runner-up Stove to win in Sao Paulo. The third week, she defeated Ruzici, Stove and Janet Newbury-Wright to win in San Juan. In November, Evert snapped King's 18-match winning streak in the final of the Colgate Series Championships in Mission Hills, California. King then won her Wightman Cup matches, defeated Navratilova to win the tournament in Japan, and beat Wade to win the Bremar Cup in London. King said, "I have never had a run like this, even in the years when I was Wimbledon champion. At 34, I feel fitter than when I was 24. 1978. King played 10 singles tournaments during the first half of 1978, limiting herself to doubles after Wimbledon. To start the year, King was the runner-up in Houston and Kansas City, and in Philadelphia. At the Virginia Slims Championships, King lost her first round-robin match to Virginia Wade and defaulted her 2 remaining round-robin matches because of a leg injury sustained during the first match. At Wimbledon, King played with a painful heel spur in her left foot and lost to Evert in the quarterfinals for the second consecutive year, 6-3, 3-6, 6-2. The match was on serve in the third set, with King serving at 2-3 before Evert won 5 consecutive points to break serve. King won a total of only 2 points during the last 2 games. King said after the match, "I don't think my mobility is very good, and that's what I need to beat her. Physically, Evert, tears your guts apart unless you can stay with her. I'm really disappointed. I really wanted to play well. I just couldn't cut it because of my heel." King and her partner Ray Ruffles lost in the final of mixed doubles in straight sets. King teamed with Navratilova to win the women's doubles title at the US Open, King's 4th women's doubles title at that tournament and 14th Grand Slam women's doubles title overall. To end the year, King was undefeated in 5 doubles matches as the US won the Federation Cup in Melbourne, Australia. During the Federation Cup competition, King hinted at retirement from future major singles competitions and said that she was sick and tired of continued surgery in trying to get fit enough for those events. Nevertheless, King had foot surgery on December 22 in an attempt to regain mobility for a return to the tennis tour. 1979. During the first half of 1979, King played only one event doubles in the Federation Cup tie against Spain because of major surgery to her left foot during December 1978. King returned to singles competition at the Wimbledon warm-up tournament in Chichester. She defeated the reigning Wimbledon champion Martina Navratilova in a 48-minute quarter-final 6-1, 6-2 before losing to Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley in the semi-finals 1-6, 6-4, 1-0, 8. Seeded 7th. At Wimbledon, King defeated Hana Mandlikova in the 4th round before losing the last 6 games of the quarter-final match with 4th-seeded Tracy Austin 6-4, 6-7, 6-2. King partnered with Navratilova at Wimbledon to win King's 20th and final Wimbledon title, breaking Elizabeth Ryan's long-standing record of 19 Wimbledon titles just one day after Ryan collapsed and died at Wimbledon. At the US Open, the 9th-seeded King reached the quarter-finals without dropping a set, where she upset the 4th-seeded Virginia Wade 6-3, 7-6. Next up was a semi-final match with the 4-time defending champion and top-seeded Chris Evert, however, with King hampered by a neck injury sustained during a bear hug with a friend the day before the match. Evert won 6-1, 6-0 including the last 11 games and 48 of the last 63 points. This was Evert's 8th consecutive win over King, with Evert during those matches losing only 1 set and 31 games and winning 4 6-0 sets. Evert said after the match, "Psychologically, I feel very confident when I play her." The following week in Tokyo, King won her first singles title in almost 2 years, defeating Goolagong-Cawley in the final. In November in Stockholm, King defeated Betty Stove in the final after Stove lost her concentration while serving for the match at 5-4 in the third set. 3 weeks later in Brighton, King lost a semi-final match with Navratilova 7-5, 0-6, 7-6 after King led 6-5 in the third set. She ended the year with a quarter-final loss in Melbourne, a second-round loss in Sydney, and a 3-set semi-final loss to Austin in Tokyo. 1980-1981. King won the tournament in Houston that began in February, snapping Martina Navratilova's 28-match winning streak in the straight sets final at the Winter Series ending Avon Championships in March. King defeated Virginia Wade in her first round-robin match 6-1, 6-3. After Wade held serve at love to open the match, King won 9 consecutive games and lost only 9 points during those games. King then lost her second round-robin match to Navratilova, and defeated Wendy Turnbull in an elimination round match before losing to Tracy Austin in the semi-finals. King played the 1980 French Open her first time since she won the event in 1972 and completed a career singles Grand Slam. She was seeded second, but lost in the quarter-finals to fifth-seeded Diane from Holtz-Bales-Tratt of Australia. At Wimbledon, King defeated Pam Shriver in a 2-hour, 40-minute fourth-round match after King saved a match point in the second set and recovered from a 4-2 deficit in the third set with Shriver serving. In a quarter-final that took 2 days to complete, King lost to two-time defending champion and top-seeded Navratilova 7-6-1, 6-1-0, 8. The beginning of the match was delayed until late afternoon because of rain. Because she wore eyeglasses, King agreed to start the match then on condition that tournament officials immediately suspend the match if the rain resumed. During the first set, drizzle began to fall. However, the chair umpire refused to suspend the match. King led in the tiebreaker 5-1 before Navratilova came back to win the set, whereupon the umpire then agreed to the suspension. When the match resumed the next day, King won 20 of the first 23 points to take a 5-0 lead in the second set, and lost a total of 7 points while winning the set in just 17 minutes. In the third set, Navratilova broke serve to take a 2-0 lead before King broke back twice and eventually served for the match at 6-5. King then hit 4 volley errors, enabling Navratilova to break serve at love and even the match. King saved 3 match points while serving at 6-7, and 3 more match points while serving at 7-8. During the changeover between games at 8-9, King's eyeglasses broke for the first time in her career. She had a spare pair, but they did not feel the same. King saved 2 match points before Navratilova broke serve to win the match. King said, "I think that may be the single match in my career that I could have won if I hadn't had bad eyes." King teamed with Navratilova to win King's 39th and final Grand Slam title at the US Open. Navratilova then decided she wanted a new doubles partner and started playing with Shriver, but refused to discuss the change directly with King. She finally confronted Navratilova during the spring of 1981, reportedly saying to her, "Tell me I'm too old, but tell me something." Navratilova refused to talk about it. King had minor knee surgery on November 14 in San Francisco to remove adhesions and cartilage. 1982-1983. In 1982, King was 38 years old and the 12th seed at Wimbledon. In her third-round match with Tanya Harford of South Africa, King was down 7-5, 5-4 before saving 3 match points to win the second set 7-6 and in the third set 6-3. King said in her post-match press conference, "I can't recall the previous time I have been so close to defeat and won. When I was down 4-5. and love 40, I told myself, you have been here 21 years, so use that experience and hang on." In the fourth round, King upset 6th-seeded Australian Wendy Turnbull in straight sets. King then upset 3rd-seeded Tracy Austin in the quarter-finals 3-6, 6-4, 6-2, to become the oldest female semi-finalist at Wimbledon since Dorothea Douglas Lambert Chambers in 1920. This was King's first career victory. over Austin after 5 defeats and reversed the result of their 1979 Wimbledon quarter-final. King said in her post-match press conference today, "I looked at the scoreboard when I was 2-0 in the third set and the 2 seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. In 1979, when I was up 2-0 at the same stage, 1 was tired and didn't have anything left. But today I felt so much better and was great mentally." 2 days later in the semi-finals, which was King's 250th career match at Wimbledon in singles, women's doubles and mixed doubles, the second-seeded Chris Evert defeated King on her 5th match point 7-6-2, 6-6-3. King was down a set and 2-1 in the second set before winning 5 consecutive games to even the match. King explained that she actually lost the match in the first set by failing to convert break points at 15-40 in the second and fourth games. She reached the semi-finals in her final appearance at Wimbledon, losing to Andrea Jaeger 6-1. 6-1 after beating Kathy Jordan in the quarter-finals. 7th-seeded Wendy Turnbull in the 4th round and Rosemary Castles, her longtime doubles partner, in the 3rd round. Jaeger claims that she was highly motivated to defeat King because King had defeated Turnbull, a favorite of Jaeger's, and because King refused a towel from an attendant just before her match, with Jaeger explaining, "I'm not going to sweat in this match." King became the oldest WTA player to win a singles tournament when she won the Edgbaston Cup grass court tournament in Birmingham at 39 years 7 months and 23 days after a straight sets victory in the final against Alicia Moulton. The final official singles match of King's career was a second-round loss to Catherine Tanvier at the 1983 Australian Open. 1984 to present. King played doubles sporadically from 1984 through 1990. She retired from competitive play in doubles in March 1990. In her last competitive doubles match, King and her partner Jennifer Capriati lost a second-round match to Brenda Schultz-McCarthy and Andrea Temesferi 6-3, 6-2 at the Virginia Slims of Florida tournament. King became the captain of the United States Fed Cup team and coach of its women's Olympic tennis squad. She guided the U.S. to the Fed Cup championship in 1996 and helped Lindsay Davenport, Gigi Fernandez, and Mary Jo Fernandez capture Olympic gold medals. In 2002, King dismissed Capriati from the Fed Cup team, saying Capriati had violated rules that forbade bringing along and practicing with personal coaches. Opinion was sharply divided, with many supporting King's decision but many feeling the punishment was too harsh, especially in hindsight when Monica Seles and Lisa Raymond were defeated by lower-ranked Austrians Barbara Skett and Barbara Schwartz. The following year, Zina Garrison succeeded King as Fed Cup captain. Player compensation. Before the start of the Open era in 1968, King earned $100 a week as a playground instructor and student at Los Angeles State College when not playing in major tennis tournaments. In 1967, King criticized the United States Lawn Tennis Association in a series of press conferences, denouncing what she called the USLTA's practice of amateurism, where top players were paid under the table to guarantee their entry into tournaments. King argued that this was corrupt and kept the game highly elitist. King quickly became a significant force in the opening of tennis to professionalism. King said this about the amateur game: push for gender equality. When the Open era began, King campaigned for equal prize money in the men's and women's games. In 1971, with ideas for the formation of an 8-player women's group from her husband Larry King, financial backing of World Tennis magazine founder Gladys Heldman, and the sponsorship of Virginia Slims chairman Joe Coleman. King became the first woman athlete to earn over $100,000 in prize money. However, inequalities continued. King won the U.S. Open in 1972 but received $15,000 less than the men's champion Ilie Nastase. She stated that she would not play the next year if the prize money were not equal. In 1973, the U.S. Open became the first major tournament to offer equal prize money for men and women. King led player efforts to support the first professional women's tennis tour in the 1970s called the Virginia Slims. Founded by Gladys Heldman and funded by Joseph Coleman of Philip Morris. Once the tour took flight, King worked tirelessly to promote it even though many of the other top players were not supportive. For 3 years we had 2 tours, and because of their governments, Martina Navratilova and Olga Morozova had to play the other tour. Chris Evert, Margaret Court, Virginia Wade. They let us do the pioneering work and they weren't very nice to us. If you go back and look at the old quotes, they played for the love of the game, we played for the money. When we got backing and money we were all playing together. I wonder why. I tried not to get upset with them. Forgiveness is important. Our job was to have one voice and win them over. In 1973, King became the first president of the Women's Players Union, the Women's Tennis Association. In 1974 she, with husband Larry King and Jim Jorgensen, founded Women's Sports Magazine and started the Women's Sports Foundation. Also in 1974 World Team Tennis began, founded by Larry King, Dennis Murphy, Frank Barman, and Jordan Kaiser. She became league commissioner in 1982 and major owner in 1984. King is a member of the board of honorary trustees for the Sports Museum of America, which opened in 2008. The museum is the home of the Billie Jean King International Women's Sports Center, a comprehensive women's sports hall of fame and exhibit. Other activities. King and her then-husband Larry co-founded World Team Tennis in 1974. The couple used their savings to put on a team tennis event at the Oakland Coliseum. King remained involved with World Team Tennis for decades, eventually sharing ownership with her ex-husband, her life partner Alana Kloss, and USTA. In 1999, King was elected to serve on the board of directors of Philip Morris Incorporated, garnering some criticism from anti-tobacco groups. She no longer serves in that capacity. As of 2012, King was involved in the Women's Sports Foundation and the Elton John AIDS Foundation. She also served on the President's Council for Fitness, Sports and Nutrition as a way to encourage young people to stay active. In 2008, King published the book Pressure is a Privilege: Lessons I've Learned from Life and the Battle of the Sexes. In December 2013, U.S. President Barack Obama appointed King and openly gay ice hockey player Caitlin Kehoe to represent the United States at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. This has been interpreted as a signal on gay rights in the context of concerns and controversies at the 2014 Winter Olympics regarding LGBT rights in Russia. King was forced to drop out of the delegation due to her mother's ill health. Betty Moffat, King's mother, died on February 7, 2014, the day of the 2014 Winter Olympics opening ceremonies. Billie Jean was selected to deliver the Northwestern University commencement address on June 16, 2017 in Evanston, Illinois. Tributes from other players. Margaret Court, who won more Grand Slam titles than anyone, has said that King was the greatest competitor I've ever known. Chris Evert, winner of 18 Grand Slam singles titles, has said he's the wisest human being that I've ever met, and has vision people can only dream about. Billie Jean King is my mentor, and has given me advice about my tennis and my boyfriends, on dealing with my parents and even how to raise children. And she doesn't have any. In 1979, several top players were asked who they would pick to help them recover from a hypothetical deficit of 1-5 in the third set of a match on Wimbledon's centre court. Martina Navratilova, Rosemary Castles and Françoise Durr all picked King. Navratilova said, "I would have to pick Billie Jean at her best. Consistently Chris Evert is hardest to beat, but for one big occasion, one big match, one crucial point, yes, it would have to be Billie Jean." Castles said no matter how far down you got her, you never could be sure of beating her. Playing style and personality. King learned to play tennis on the public courts of Long Beach, California, and was coached by tennis teacher Clyde Walker. She furthered her tennis career at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. She was an aggressive, hard-hitting net rusher with excellent speed. Chris Evert, however, said about King her weakness is her impatience. Concerning her motivations in life and tennis, King said, "I'm a perfectionist much more than I'm a super competitor. And there's a big difference there. I've been painted as a person who only competes. But most of all, I get off on hitting a shot correctly. Any woman who wants to achieve anything has to be aggressive and tough. But the press never sees us as multidimensional. They don't see the emotions, the downs." In a 1984 interview just after she had turned 40, King said, "Sometimes when I'm watching someone like Martina Navratilova, I remember how nice it was to be number one. Believe me, it's the best time in your life. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. My only regret is that I had to do too much off the court. Deep down, I wonder how good I really could have been if I had concentrated just on tennis." Julie Heldman, who frequently played King but never felt close to her, said about King's personality, "One of the reasons I've never gotten close to Billie Jean is that I've never felt strong enough to survive against that overwhelming personality of hers. She talks about me being the smart one. Let me tell you, Billie Jean's the smartest one, the cleverest one you'll ever see. She was the one who was able to channel everything into winning, into being the most consummate tennis player." Kristen Kemershaw, another frequent opponent of King, said, "For a time I think I was as close to Billie Jean as anyone ever was. But as soon as I got to the point where I could read her too well, she tried to dissociate the relationship. She doesn't want to risk appearing weak in front of anybody. She told me once that if you want to be the best, you must never let anyone know what you really feel. You see, she told me, they can't hurt you if they don't know." Concerning the qualities of a champion tennis player, King said, "In popular culture, King's friend Elton John wrote the song Philadelphia Freedom, a nod to her world team tennis team. For King, released New Year's Day 1975, became a #1 hit. Charles M. Schulz, creator of the Peanuts comic strip, was an admirer and close friend. Schulz referred to King several times in Peanuts and used the comic strip to support women's sports movement after becoming friends with King. Actress Holly Hunter portrayed King in the 2001 ABC television film When Billy Beat Bobby. King played a judge on Law, Ugly Betty in May 2009 and played herself in The Fresh Off the Boat in 2016. Actress Emma Stone portrayed King in the 2017 biopic Battle of the Sexes. The Ted Tinling designed dress King wore for the real Battle of the Sexes match is part of a Smithsonian Museum collection. Personal life. Billie Jean and Larry King were engaged in fall of 1964 and married in Long Beach, California, on September 17, 1965. Billie Jean credited Larry with introducing her to feminism and for pushing her to pursue tennis as a career. Billie Jean later said she was totally in love with Larry when they married. By 1968, King realized that she was attracted to women and in 1971 began an intimate relationship with her secretary Marilyn Barnett. King acknowledged the relationship when it became public in a May 1981 palimony lawsuit filed by Barnett, making King the first prominent professional female athlete to come out as a lesbian. Feeling she could not admit the extent of the relationship, King publicly called it a fling and a mistake. She remained married to Larry. The lawsuit caused King to lose an estimated $2 million in endorsements and forced her to prolong her tennis career. To pay attorneys concerning the personal cost of concealing her sexuality for so many years. King said, Billie Jean and Larry remained married through the palimony suit fallout. The marriage ended in 1987 after Billie Jean fell in love with her doubles partner Alana Kloss. Billie Jean and Larry remained on good terms, with Billie Jean serving as godmother to Larry's son. From his subsequent marriage, King has residences in New York City and Chicago with Kloss, her life partner. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Would you like to know more?